See it streaming. So, usually it's right by me. Usually people can hear my low voice. So the first order of business would be call a roll call.
Friedman.
Aye.
Mesco.
Present.
Northern.
Aye.
Group.
Here. Okay, we have quorum. Next is the pledge of allegiance. Everybody please rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next will be the approval of the agenda. Have a motion?
Second.
Mesco.
Aye.
Group.
Aye.
Friedman.
Aye.
Northern.
Aye.
Next will be public comment. Just a reminder that we limit public comment to 4 minutes apiece. But we typically won't cut you off mid-sentence either. So first person up will be Paul Bernard Downey.
Okay.
We record all on
Oh,
those, so-
okay, that's fair. My name is Paul Bernardoni, and I live in Caroline North, a community of about 361 homes, well, actually exactly 361 homes, with approximately 525 residents. I've circulated a petition, which I will read to you in a moment. But first, the message I want to convey to you is that this problem, the problem of high property taxes, does not apply only to Caroline North seniors, but also seniors throughout the greater community. These high taxes are not reflective of the income level of those residents. I've done a calculation that the Caroline North residents pay $3.3 million in property taxes this year. About $1.3 million is paid to School District 46, this school district. $1.1 million is paid to the high school, District 127. These two school districts added together amount to 74% of our property taxes. This is what the petition that we circulated reads. Pretty good group back here. We are residents of Grace Lake and residents in Grace Lake School District number 46. We reside in Caroline North, which is an over 55 active adult community. This petition is to advise you of our significant growing concern of the continued and large increases in property tax levies, which are based in large part on the following factors. Property tax increases are causing undue hardship on residents living on fixed incomes, like the residents of Caroline North. The increases are causing residents to move out of the community to more property tax friendly communities. Assessed values of homes in our community have increased as much as 29% in the last 2 years. There was no Social Security increase in 2015. There was no Social Security increase in 2016. And we're going to get 0.3% increase in 2017. For the average Social Security person, that's $4 a month or $48 a year. We respectfully request you to freeze your tax levy or hold the tax levy increase to no more than 3%.
0.3.
0.3. Thank you. Well, I'm getting this petition out for these people, but the people from Caroline North that are here tonight, please hold up your hand. If you're recording that again. This petition that I'll hand to your vice president contains 401 signatures.
Okay, next up will be Mike Linder.
Here we go. Before someplace will fall down.
First of all, I want to thank you for your service. I think I served for 4 years and plus a couple more. And I don't think anybody ever thanked me for my service. So I know how tough it is to be a volunteer on a hot stage. I've been a resident of Carolina North since the year 2000. So I've kind of seen the huge growth, the building of a lot of schools, and then nothing, just kind of plateaued for us. For several years, I served on the school board, 2 years as president. Also served over a year as a consultant to the board, focusing on cost reduction. So I know what you've done, and I know how hard you've worked on cost reduction. During this time, substantial progress was made on energy costs, copier costs, busing costs, and a lot of other things that I'm sure Chris could get you up to speed on. We also participated in the defeasance of the 90 and 92 bonds. 99 bonds. That was allowed the building of this building and Frederick School, new roofs on Avon, Meadowview was built, Prairie View was built. A huge amount of construction was done. When those buildings were constructed as separate entities instead of central buildings like this one, a lot of your cost structure was determined for you. You got to have administrators and teachers, and when you've got 4 schools with 4th grade and you're trying to control your class size, it's not easy to, you get over 25 or 30 on one school, but another one only has 15. So makes it very, very difficult. But you've done a great job. I think the residents also need to be aware of the dire effect of the state government on our school district. They arbitrarily transferred, quote unquote, $1 million in busing costs from the state budget to the homeowners with no concern about local impact. They just said, we're not going to pay this anymore. You're going to have to find the money somewhere else. Well, we were the somewhere else, which is unfortunate. The continuing power plays that the state government goes through makes it nearly impossible to administer a budget. You don't know if you're going to get the support. They give it to you, but they don't pay you. How's this local district supposed to deal with that? We don't have a slush fund like they do beneath us. There's no safety net. So I understand the difficulty. My personal experience and involvement, I know that constant efforts have been made to reduce costs, and the district deserves credit for their efforts. For example, the energy program earned a performance level that exceeds 90% of comparable schools. Were you aware of that? Did you know that? That's too bad. When we started, we were at 45%. That's enough for national recognition by the Energy Commission. We didn't do that because it would have cost us a few $1,000s to get it, so we passed on that. The cost per child in this school district is well below the average. I don't know exactly where it is, Chris. Do you know?
My head, I couldn't tell you because it changed just recently with our new audit. I'd have to go.
But it's still well below 50%.
Oh, yeah, it was,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's well below average, which again is a lot of hard work on Ellen, your part of your people. So I don't know what else can be done, but I know a lot more can be done. The area that I'm concerned about is busing. And I still think there's money there to be had. But thankfully, that's not my problem anymore. Well, it is my problem, but not as much as it was. We want to support the schools. I think all the people behind me would agree with that. But we're struggling. When we see our friends and neighbors selling because they can't afford the taxes, that's tough to take. And this constant, it's been averaging about 3% a year that you can get without having an election. That's 15%. And the school growth has been level. It's hard to justify that. I don't think you can justify it. I really think that the district needs to ask for no increase in that area.
Next will be Herb Spooner.
I'll take yours. We'll give the other one a little. Is this working so you can hear me? Great.
Yeah.
My name is Herb Spooner. I'm a member of the Board of Directors for Carolina North. I'm also their chairman of the Finance Committee. I bring to that position about 40 years of experience as a civil engineer, project manager, managing projects with budgets in excess of $2 billion. So I know a little bit about finance and control of dollars. What I don't know is all the details of running a school. And I will echo what Mike has said. I think you're doing a great job education-wise here in Grays Lake. But we have some problems. For several months now, the board of directors and the finance committee have been working very hard to create the 2017 budget for Carolina North. Our goal was to freeze the budget and still provide for the needs of our community. We set that goal because we are on a fixed income. We don't have discretionary income. We have people moving out, as Mike said. We have the stress on the people who are staying, and we had to find a way to keep our assessments where they were this year for next year. It wasn't easy. It was a very difficult task, but we did it. Therefore, we believe that you have a very difficult task in front of you, but it can be done. You can control the expenditures. You can set a goal, at least set the goal and see how close you can come to it, of freezing the budget or keeping the increase in the budget to no more than the 0.3%, which is what we have to do in our own personal budgets. We support you. If there's anything we can do to help you, we will, other than paying our taxes, or in addition to paying our taxes. But you need to hear that we are the tip of the iceberg. You have people here tonight from one community. I've been at other meetings where I've heard people from other communities, other neighborhoods, and other neighborhood people are saying they're in the same situation. They are moving out of town because they can't afford to pay their taxes. They are being pinched, and these are people who in fact they're working. They're getting some sort of an increase from their employer. But everybody is really, really hurting. Thank you.
Does everybody else have anything they want to say? We only had the 3 sign-ups. So. Okay. All right. Thank you for those comments. And we will look over the petition that you have given us. And take everything under advisement at this point.
Can you use your mic better? You can hardly hear.
Usually it works really well. Okay, so the next part of tonight's agenda is the presentation of the outstanding math and science teacher.
Could Dr. O'Malley come up, please? So, as a district, we want to recognize one of our district parents for outstanding achievement. Dr. O'Malley this year was one of 4 Illinois teachers who received the prestigious President's Award for Math and Science. Dr. O'Malley, who has 2 children, one who attends Park now, Colin, and Sarah, who had attended in the past, who's now in Cornell, running on the cross-country team, track team, sorry, yeah. He has taught in District 69 for 23 years. His wife Tiffany and family has been in School District 46 for 13 years. He's a National Board Certified Teacher, Professor for Southern Illinois University, Area 1 Regional Director for the School Science and Teachers Association, and Volunteer Education Leader for a not-for-profit organization called Oasis for Orphans. Just recently came back from a Kenya trip where he did some outstanding work for some people in need there. A board member for Child Care Network of Evanston and a representative of School District 69 STEM leadership team. He teaches each summer in Chicago's Botanic Garden and is concluding his coaching career in the upcoming weeks. He's an outstanding individual, and one of the reasons I wanted to take time to recognize Dr. O'Malley is because he was one of the reasons I became a school board member here. We coached together. He's coached my son. I've coached his son. He's coached basketball, football, baseball. He's an outstanding citizen of this community, outstanding leader, and outstanding representative. And on behalf of the whole district, we're proud of you for your award and the hard work you do in our community here. Thanks a lot.
Testing 1, 2. David, thank you so much. I really want to just thank all of you. I want to thank the board in particular and all the teachers that my children have had the opportunity to be taught by, the administrators. I have to say we've really loved this community, loved the schools. My kids have had incredible experiences here. As you mentioned, David, my daughter's at Cornell, doing well, excelled at Central, and we believe it's really a byproduct of being a part of this district community. And in Collins in 8th grade now, it's kind of bittersweet. I was telling Mr. Malabat, this will be the end of our involvement, at least in the school level at Park. We're going to miss being here, miss the community part of that, and we'll remain forever grateful to the school community for what they've done for our family. So thank you all so much.
Next up is board reports. Anybody have any?
I just want to take opportunity at the Lake County Housing Authority. We're having a family literacy night, and I know a number the board members, are involved in a number of organizations throughout the community. So I just wanted to pass out a few flyers so that if anybody wants to attend, so I'll pass them out by the end of the meeting.
There's a committee called Curriculum Tech Committee, and I want to point out there's a Institute Day on Friday, and one of the things that we do with a standing agenda, I'll just name some of the things we do: implementation of the professional learning community concepts, professional development efforts, curriculum development, parent involvement, and assessment update. When we meet once a month, that's Kathleen Parkinson and myself, we give reports on these, and we ask many questions about it. And in particular, I'm sure parents wonder and citizens wonder, what do they do with an Institute Day? I mean, all day long, there's no kids, and et cetera. We were briefed on the plans for this coming Friday and all the areas that we mentioned about professional development and leading teams and curriculum development and job alike. All these things were covered in a very organized fashion. Will be covered in a very organized fashion this Friday. I have a background in education. I've tried to organize some of these things, and I've also been a participator in these types of meetings. And we were really pleased with what they have organized. And these areas are in good hands.
The only thing I wanted to cover is last meeting we were in the public comment, we had somebody tell a couple of things in it that we wanted to address. First off, if anybody needs to get a hold of anybody on the school board, all of our email addresses are on the District 46 website. Those are the accurate emails for you to use to get a hold of us. The person had the wrong email addresses, and the entire board didn't get the email that he wanted to send us. Second thing was, we were told that we had a $100,000 retainer for our district attorneys. We do not have a retainer for our attorneys. We pay them on an as-needed basis. And since the beginning of this year, which started July 1st, we've only spent $2,500 on attorney fees. And all of last year, we only spent $38,000 on attorney's fees. So we are working on keeping those costs down, okay? So we wanted to address those comments and make sure that those were accurate and that everybody had the right information. Superintendent's report?
So we have sent out the goal-setting meetings. We looked at November 1st, November 3rd, November 15th, and the 17th. Now, November 1st is the day that we will be doing some interviewing for the next board candidate to take Rob's spot. But I didn't know what dates Jim was available or David. So should we go back and start looking at other dates for our board goal setting, or how do you want to handle this? Because we're not getting a lot of.
That's my fault. I didn't respond back to you.
Couldn't we do them both? I was wondering if we could do them both the same night. I mean, if the schedule works. So for November 1st, I don't know, David, or what does your schedule look on November 1st?
That's fine. Talking about a night meeting?
Yes,
Yes, that's fine.
do interviews first and then do board goal setting after that? David's okay, you're okay? All right, then that's what we'll do. Thank you. Great. That was easy.
You know what time, 6:30?
Well, if we could do the interview, would it be possible to start at 6?
Whenever you,
Okay,
I just wanna
I'll
set
talk
the
to
time.
Kathleen and see what
okay,
time.
yes,
Okay,
okay.
thank you.
Okay, so November 1st will be interviews for new candidates and
Yes.
for board and goal setting.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else?
I also serve as liaison with the foundation, and I'm not a voting member of it, but I also make reports from the board to the foundation and the Foundation 46, and then from the Foundation 46 to the board. And one of the things that the foundation is financing is during this Institute Day, the art teachers are going to the museum.
Art and music.
Art and music people, their trip is going to be financed by the foundation. So it's a good example of things working together to move education along. And the superintendent's going along with the fine art
Yep.
and the music teachers.
Okay, next is our consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda for tonight's meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second. Northern,
Aye.
Alfred. Aye. Meskel,
Aye.
Root,
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye. Okay, and next is the action items. These are agenda items that will be voted on by the board. Typically, we've discussed these at least twice. First one is a motion to approve the bilingual assistant at Avon School per school code due to student numbers.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? You want to explain that one?
Well, actually, I'll ask Stephanie to do that since she's, sorry, Stephanie, put you right on the spot, didn't I?
Just since we have a large crowd.
Yeah, so Stephanie is our Director of English Language Services.
So we needed to have a program assistant for second grade at Avon School because they are over the 90% rule. And the 90% rule means that a bilingual teacher can only have 90% of this amount of students that a monolingual classroom teacher has. So right now the average is 20 students. Our second grade teacher has 20 students, so therefore she's at 100%. If she had 18, she would have been at the 90. So it's per school code that she needs a program assistant.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay.
Weedman,
Aye.
Meskel,
Aye.
Root.
Aye.
Northern,
Aye.
Alfred. Aye.
Okay, and the next item is motion to approve the purchase of a sound system at GMS.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
Marcus, if you,
Good evening, everyone. Happy third time conversation about our board. You'll notice the first page is an updated quote. This is the quote because last time that we spoke, you asked for our recommendation. This quote is a reduced number than what you have in the board packet. We have had 3 professionals come in and talk to us about our recommendations for the sound boards, for the sound equipment. And one of the recommendations was to look at the speakers. So originally this quote had 20 speakers that pushed from the ceiling the sound straight down. And actually all 3 of them spoke to us along with Mr. Thomas and Mrs. Novak, talking about the speakers' placement in the gym. Obviously our gym is not a theater and is not set up to be such. But if we had the speakers that were at the front or at the side pushing sound out at us, it's obviously much better than the sound coming straight down. So we did call this company and asked for updated quote. And again, you asked for a recommendation, and based off of taking the 3 quotes that we've been continuing to talk about over the last month, looking at the references that we called, all 3 had great references, which I attached. And then I also gave you 2 testimonials of 2 of the professionals that came in and talked to us about our existing system, which come to find out many of the components of that were inserted into our gym circa early 1990, I think, somewhere in there. So it has long since done its job and gotten our sound out of it that I think we're going to get. But in going through and looking at the new information, that did reduce this quote by close to $1,000, maybe closer to $1,100 if I did my math correctly. So I'm open for further questions.
I told you 2 weeks ago I was going to ask this question. I assume the teachers were involved in what we're doing here?
Mr. Thomas, Mrs. Novak, and Brian Kalish from the tech department was part of this discussion that we had as well. Yep.
And where are you on your fundraising levels?
Continuing. Our goal is to get there. We're not there yet.
I just want to add that I'm excited to see that the company that's doing work is from Grace Lake, which helps with our tax situation, especially when we do business with local companies. So thanks for paying attention to that conversation we had about that.
Always do. Thank you.
Okay, so what we've been asked by Marcus and GMS is to front the money for the system with the PTO and the parents raising the balance to try to work on reimbursing the district for the cost of the school system. And they are working on getting some grants. They are working on individual fundraisers to try and raise money for this. And they're asking us to front the money up front. Still correct?
Correct.
So I'm just going to restate my position that I feel that this is something that the board should be paying for. I think that we are putting an extra burden on a principal and on PTO volunteers. I applaud all the work that has been done, and I'm not making negative comments towards that, but to me, this is no different than a leaky roof. This was a system that was in place, broken, needs to be fixed. We have fabulous music, art, theater departments, and it doesn't make any sense to me that we would even consider not having a sound system where people could hear performances.
Anything? I tend to agree with Jill on that aspect, but I also don't want to take away the fundraising efforts that the parents have been working towards in their goal. Maybe there's a compromise in between. A lot of it's going to be depending on what Chris has availability in his budget. I know he has said he has the money to upfront it, but this wasn't on his long-range radar for replacement.
And I don't think we need to take away from any work that's been done. We certainly could accept whatever already has been raised. I'm trying to lessen a burden. I'm not trying to negate efforts that have already taken place.
Thoughts? Rob? Dave?
The equipment goes toward the betterment of our students. My only concern is that if it's something that wasn't budgeted for, I want to make sure financially we can cover it in the right way. So, although I understand that it's something that needs to be replaced, I want to ensure that Chris has it in the budget and it won't cause no financial burdens on any other areas of the district.
Like I said last time, it wasn't.
Yes.
Okay. This wasn't put in the 2017 budget. I do always budget a small amount for just in case scenarios. Obviously, we already had one the first day of school. We had a leak in the roof. That being said, anything that's going to cost this amount of money, it's a fairly substantial amount of money, and it's something that wasn't on our 10-year focus plan. It wasn't something. It's something that we had in the past just replaced or repaired, I should say. I know Marcus is very familiar with that because we've had to go out and look for specific parts on
Many Band-Aids.
many Band-Aids. And that in the near term was kind of the direction that we were taking based on what I know is coming fiscally for us in the near future. We were trying to take the most conservative approach possible in terms of finances. I know that might not be what the best thing is for some of the performers who may have lost a little bit of sound during their performances. It's not the best display. But in terms of this year in particular, it's going to be a hit to our operations and maintenance budget. And it's something that may put us over and put us on the negative side.
So Chris, is it a possibility we already as a board decided to front on the money to have it purchased with the parents and on the PTO saying, hey, we want to raise money. This is something that they came and decided. So is it something that we can look at once we go through this district, the school year at the end and say, well, what did we spend? You said it's a little money you put aside, and we can base what we pay or give at the end or accept based on what's left over, so we can make it fair at least.
Depending on,
Where the budget falls at the end of the year.
yeah,
The extra percentage that you usually budget.
yeah, I will say that some of the concern lies with the PTO as well in terms of they're raising money for a specific purpose. And if that money has been raised for that specific purpose, and now all of a sudden it's not going to be used for that, I don't know how that will be taken by the PTO or those that have donated towards that specific purpose.
Well, if for example, at the end of the year, if you say we have $16,000 that we had budgeted but didn't utilize, and the PTO raised, $4,000, right? So they still raised the money for the particular purpose, and we can still meet that need without going over budget.
Sure, I would be willing to offer, I would take a look at that and say to myself, that falls
There's no
within our
reason we couldn't
parameters.
still accept money that's been given. You're absolutely correct. When people give money for a specific purpose, we need to uphold that. There's no reason that couldn't be applied. And I guess I'm sitting here, I'm trying to figure out why this wasn't put in the budget, why this wasn't in a 10-year plan. As a board member, we're asked for things to be brought to us that so we can look and make decisions. So I'm feeling frustrated that if this is a true need and we knew about this, why was this not included?
Usually in a facilities plan, you're not looking at something like a sound system, but you're looking at larger ticket items. I mean, we have intercom systems, which are a little bit more expensive. A sound system like the one that is utilized over at GMS, like I said, we've known that it's had its issues, but we are in repair mode because we are in kind of needs versus wants. And I understand like somebody who is interested in the arts might think that it's more of a want or more of a need than a want, but from our purpose, we're trying to do the best we can to just focus on things that are absolutely necessary. On top of that, I'm trying to look, the facility plan in itself, the architects come through. I don't think they necessarily even took a look at the sound system. So it's something that, they're looking at.
But staff knew about this, right? We don't solely rely on consultants coming in here. People that work in these buildings know what's going on. And so I'm just concerned, and I would like to see, as a board member, that staff don't feel they have the ability to voice their opinion on things, and that's a concern of mine. So, and I'm a little confused, is this a big expense or is it not a big expense? Because I think I'm hearing
Well,
both sides of the coin.
There
And
is,
I don't mean to put you on the spot, Chris, because I don't really see that this is necessarily your sole responsibility to answer these questions.
well, I mean, I should be answering some of the questions. Obviously, it's an expense. And like I said, when something breaks down, generally our first inclination is to fix it. We don't have the money to replace everything. And then you get into this broke down, and people will start wanting new things right off the bat instead of, hey, this has been something that, we've only had for a certain period of time, and therefore we can go ahead and fix it instead of replace it. I don't want to get into that mode where everything is replaceable. It's just kind of how we've been operating. I mean, it's the same thing with the roof over at the middle school. I mean, that roof was scheduled to be, according to the 10-year facility plan, it was scheduled to be replaced about 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And we kept pushing it off because we're trying to hold off on all of the expenses. I mean, from my purpose, we're just trying to do what's best fiscally.
Every February, we meet, January and February, we meet with each of the building principals to look at what their needs are. I don't believe, unless I'm wrong, that we talked about the sound system at that time when we built the budget, did we? No. So unless it's brought to our attention at that time, it would not have been on our radar screen.
I suggest that when we, having been through budgeting myself, from the other end of things, we've got to know about what's needed. And then if we decide we're not gonna spend it, then we make that decision. We're not gonna spend it, we can't afford to. So when we go through the budgeting process for next year, let's make sure that the principals get the information from the people in the building. And these kinds of things are brought to our attention in a timely fashion. We'll go from there. But we're in a bind right now where apparently a girl was singing a song and the thing stopped working while she was singing the song. That's something that we probably would say, maybe we need to repair this thing if we ever get a new one, if we got this information in a timely fashion. But let's take a good hard look at the way we budget things. If we need something, ask for it. If we have to say no, we have to say no. But we don't need to have these requests in overtime. Let's have these during the game.
Some of it has to do with the nature of what it is we're talking about. It's a little bit easier to look at a shingle on a roof and say that shingle has a 25-year lifespan and we're coming up on it. I don't know if there's anything out there that necessarily says that 25 years is the lifespan of a sound system. So.
Would it be, I guess the way I'm looking at it is we still want to have the PTO have their goal. Was kind of Marcus's request of them to still have their goal of raising money towards this. If we set a dollar amount that we want them to raise and then we pick up the rest, would that work? We make it, if they reach 10 grand and we'll pick up the rest? Or do we want to let them continue trying to pick up the entire thing?
How much has been raised so far?
I would support the PTO saying that this is how much we think we can reasonably give to this or whatever, and accept that and move on.
Just for clarification's sake, the audience didn't hear what you had said, Mark.
We've raised close to $4,000.
Say that again,
$4,000.
$4,000.
for the sound system?
Mm-hmm.
How much does it cost in total?
22,000, close to 22,000.
Any other discussion on where we want them to pick it up? We want to make that decision tonight, or we want to wait towards the end of the budget year?
Well, the question is whether we're gonna pay for it
Right.
now, to give them
Pay-
upfront the money,
Yeah.
right, which I completely support, and I guess I would throw it back to the PTO to ask, knowing where you're at now, what a reasonable goal you think the PTO thinks that they can raise? And then that could come back for discussion instead of us just picking an amount, right,
Okay.
without their input. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, well, I'm fine. Like Alan said, the purpose for this motion was for us to approve the sound system. We can work out the details as far as where we want them to raise their dollar amounts to.
Move the question.
The motion to approve the purchase of the sound system at GMS. We had a motion and a second. And then what we'll do is we will work with the PTO to figure out what a reasonable amount that they can, feel they can raise by the end of the year, and we will accept that amount.
I'm just saying, they're going, one way or the other, they're gonna have the sound system.
Correct.
Right.
So let's just vote on it.
Alfred.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Masco.
Aye.
Northern.
Aye.
Root.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm gonna flip the next two, just so that we have a quorum to appoint David Northern as a replacement for Rob Roop. So I need a motion to approve David Northern as the replacement for Rob Roop as a member of the CEDAL board.
So moved.
Second.
Root.
Aye.
Northern.
Aye.
Alfred.
Aye.
Masco.
Aye.
Weedman.
Okay, and then the next one is a motion to approve the resignation of Rob Roop, board member, as he is moving out of town, out of country, for that matter.
Yeah.
Second.
I would like to make a comment, several comments, actually. So tonight is my last board meeting. We're moving to Munich with my employer, a country where we don't speak the language, and we'll be navigating a new culture. An experience which I think we'll find very interesting because of the interest I've had in our own bilingual students' experience here. So I'll report back on our findings. I'm resigning content and satisfied with all of the work that we've accomplished in almost 4 years. I think my board experience has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my professional career. And as Michael Lindner said, I'm not sure, I know people have thanked me just because the board was such a disaster. 4 years ago when we joined, people thank us that we're not in the news, that we don't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on attorney's fees anymore. They thank us that we have an administrative team with the numbers and skill necessary to lead the district now. They thank us that we have created a financially viable plan to continue to deliver high quality education and to improve the quality of our schools over the coming years. They thank us for the improved relationship we have with our teachers and staff after we successfully negotiated 2 contracts without a strike, without even a resolution to strike after the previous board did experience a strike. And we have a better environment for all of our students. We figured out how to air condition 2 schools that were seeing several weeks of of shortened class times or canceled classes. Students who weren't able to attend because of health issues that were directly a result of going to school and classes where the temperature exceeded 90 degrees and the humidity 90%. And I mentioned before, but I think it's just remarkable that this board has restored board meetings to their formal function of being boring and not really very newsworthy, as was not the case 4 years ago, where it was embarrassing being a resident of Grace Lake and the news that was regularly published. So and that's not even it's a short list of the things that we've accomplished. There's still much to do. There's a strategic plan that needs to be resolved and finished. There are going to be 2 teacher paraprofessional contracts probably negotiated in the next 4 years. That is going to be a lot of work. You're going to have to hire a new superintendent. And there's a great deal of uncertainty just because of the national and state elections, the state's financial situation. It's a time of incredible uncertainty. I can't tell you that I'm not slightly relieved that I won't have to be here for that. That would be lying. But I do hope and wish that the board and the new members will dedicate yourselves to putting the district and students before personal ambitions and agendas. I think we were all recently elected enough to understand what happens when that is not the case. I mentioned before that the national election and problems in Illinois will create many direct and indirect issues, either between the energy allocated towards things against government. But I would just ask everyone to please remember that nothing can change our standard of living for better or worse than local government, and the schools in particular. The students that attend these schools will be the kids who figure out how to solve all the problems that we're creating today. They deserve the best of our effort in order to do so. So thank you.
I also wanted to say a couple things. I just want to publicly thank you, Rob, and say what a pleasure it was to serve alongside with you. The four of us, when we came on, we had some goals, and I think we achieved those, the main goals. And I think that you've left the board better than how you found it. And I think you've served in a way that all the kids in the district can look up to. And I think that's admirable. We haven't always agreed. In fact, all of us have voted differently on many issues, but we've always walked out agreeing to disagree. And I think that that is a great public service. And I just want to publicly say thank you. Well, on behalf of the school district, I'd also like to thank you for not only serving the district, but the community. Along with the rest of this board, you have brought professionalism and respect back to this position, which is very important. You've also, I was trying to think of how to put this, you've questioned us forward. In other words, you've asked some challenging questions that have caused us to look things differently and hopefully made some better decisions. So we thank you for your contribution and would like to give you this gift of appreciation and all that you've done. You're welcome. So we do have cake for you after.
I just like to echo Gil's, we may not have agreed eye to eye on everything, but at least we were able to work it out and work alongside each other. I'm gonna miss having you here at the board meetings. I thought you brought a very good perspective to different things, as everybody who's now on the board has in the last couple of years have been able to bring new ideas, new thought processes, and I think that's really important for the school board. So I thank you, and I wish you good luck in Germany.
I just want to real fast say thank you also. When I first decided to run for school board, we sat down and we broke bread together and, talked about the current issues that was going on, and we had an opportunity to meet each other's wives and kids, and, I really learned a lot from you as being one of the new school board members. As Ellen said, you asked some really challenging questions at times. It made me think, now who's going to ask those tough questions? We got to really do some harder research to make sure we, be able to stand up for what we lose when you leave this board. So again, thank you.
I'd like to thank you also. And I'd also like to say that somebody else is going to step forward and punch holes in things, because I often said, okay, this looks pretty good, but let's wait till Rob starts poking at it a little bit and see what happens then. And that's a very good thing. And that's why you don't have one person on the board. That's why you have 7 people on the board. And my final word would be, love leaders in. Maybe you figure out what that means.
Soon enough.
Okay, give a motion in a second.
I do.
Okay.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Roop,
Aye.
Alfred,
Aye.
Northern,
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Meskel.
A reluctant aye.
All right, so next is recognition of board member Rob Roop leaving office. I need a motion to adjourn Sin Dai, and we'll have a short recess for refreshments and looks like a cake.
So
Looks like cake, or tastes like cake.
Okay, Alfred,
Aye.
Meskel,
aye.
Roop,
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Northern.
Aye.
previously brought before the board, and they will be items that we discuss, but no action will be taken. Update on the ELL PDT recommendations.
So we asked, oh, go ahead, were you going to introduce? We'll go right ahead. We'll fight over it.
Yeah, no, you do it.
No, go.
So we're very excited to be able to come back and share some information. Stephanie Diaz, our Director of EL Services, has been working very hard with the EL and bilingual staff to continue the plans that were put in place prior to both of our arrivals. And we wanted to respect those, the work and the goals that the PDT last year had presented to you as a school board. And so we're wanting to move forward with sharing more information so that we can decide how else we're moving forward with services for our second language learners, specifically for bilingual. Stephanie.
So today I will be focusing on honoring the work from last year's ELPDT while combining the most recent data and enrollment and then recent research to
Yeah, I don't think the tape's gonna pick it up.
Is this better?
Which microphone is it?
It was captains.
Does it say
10.
10? Thank you.
There, you just probably have to talk
Hello?
closer.
There you go.
Sorry. Okay.
I will.
There you go.
For sure. Okay, so tonight I will be talking about the recommendation to move forward to a late exit model based on the work, last year's work from the EL PDT, while combining the most recent data and the latest research. So we're going to start with the vision statement. So this is the vision that was put together last year. And basically it says that the EL program will provide high quality education with a culturally responsive environment and promote bilingualism. Bilingualism is a situation where there is a student, a child, who is introduced to two distinct languages from their beginning of life, right? And we're hoping that by the time that they are an adult, they're able to read and speak and write in both languages. That would be what bilingualism is. On the next slide, we have the list of beliefs that the ELPDT created. I'm only going to talk about two of them right now, or highlight two. The second one is we believe that bilingualism and cultural diversity are assets, so it's something to be proud of, something that is valued, something that we should promote. And then we also believe that all of our students should have the opportunity to develop bilingualism. So these two beliefs, along with this list, would be accomplished with a late exit model. Okay. The next three slides are true verbatim the school code. I'm only going to highlight just a few things. On the first one, it talks about when an attendance center or a school has the enrollment of 20 or more limited proficient students in a language, we need to put together a program. So the code doesn't really describe exactly what type of program. It could be an ESL program, it could be a part-time placement, or a full-time TBE, but we just need to have something. On the second set of code here, it talks about the TPI, or the Transitional Program of Instruction, and that is your typical ESL classroom. So we could have students with various language backgrounds, and we have one teacher who is certified in ESL, but he does not have to be bilingual. Okay. On the third code, this is preschool. And tonight I'm really not going to focus that much on preschool, but I did want to point out that the number of enrollment of Spanish speakers in preschool is significantly rising each year, and you'll see that in a later slide. Okay. So where are we, or what do we have? Right now, our current programming consists of transitional bilingual education, or early exit, right? So at Avon, we have kindergarten, first and second grade bilingual classes, and Prairie View, we have a kindergarten and first grade multi-age classroom. Okay? This is the most common form of bilingual education, and really we're hoping to move students into English within 2 or 3 years. So the program is usually eliminated within 2 or 3 years where you're giving native language instruction. So right now in kindergarten and first grade, it's 90% of the day is instructed in Spanish. You have 10% English, but there is a focus to move to English as fast as possible. Okay, next. So here, continuing with transitional bilingual education, it's basically a subtractive bilingual model. So that means you have a heritage language or your first language, or sometimes referred to as L1 here. And we're going to support that and give you some native language instruction for a couple of years, and then we're going to take that away and we're going to put English and we want you to march on in English and be monolingual for kind of the rest of your academic career. And so the goal of this program is to just move into English only as quickly as possible. Okay. And then we have the transitional program, or TPI, which again is your ESL. All the rest of our schools, so Frederick, GMS, Meadowview, Park Campus, and Woodview are currently operating under the TPI model, and that's where we have a certified ESL teacher, but your classmates could have a background in maybe their native language or heritage language is Spanish, or maybe it's German, or maybe it's Polish, and they're all learning academic strategies to be successful in academic subjects. So it's very important to know that usually the academic subjects are literacy and numeracy, or literacy and math. And the idea then is to give the students strategies and visuals so that these ideas and strategies basically that would be able to access the content would then transfer into other content areas, such as social studies, science, art, and their specials. Okay. And then that is done through usually sheltered English. And I'll give an example of sheltered English in just a little bit. So the goals of the TPI program are really just, again, to kind of provide the students English support through sheltered English, through visuals, so using the language development standards and the WIDA proficiency scale to hopefully facilitate students to move over into a mainstream classroom. So what would we like to create, or where would we like to go? And we would like to change our bilingual program and change our mindset and move to an additive bilingualism mindset. And that basically means we would like to promote your native or heritage language and English so you can acquire them both, right? And we would like to capitalize on the language transference. So if we're going to give students an option to be instructed in their native language for a longer period of time, we're going to build a very strong foundation on your native language, and then being able to transfer to the second language will happen at a much faster and quicker rate. Another really exciting thing, or I think most of you know me, brain research is something that I'm really very interested in. And additive bilingualism, which is linked to high self-esteem, but also increased cognitive flexibility. And what's kind of fun is adults, so if you fast forward, you're bilingual, and then now you're an adult, you have a reduced risk of being diagnosed with any type of brain or memory condition, such as like Alzheimer's or dementia, because your brain is very elastic. And so you're able to kind of translanguage between 1, 2, or 3, or 4 different types of languages. And what's kind of fun is you earn and you build languages in nets. So you have your first native language in your first net here, and then your second language goes behind that, and your third and your fourth, how many other languages you feel like wanting to acquire. And so if you have heard of someone who maybe had a brain injury or traumatic injury, and they lost their first language, but for some reason after 4 years of maybe French in high school, they were able to just miraculously be fluent in French, that has happened multiple times, it is because their first net was damaged, but their second net is totally fine. And so everything that you've ever been exposed to in French is stored there, whether you actually know it or not. And so that came forward. And then this second language, which was now your primary, is actually going to help you rebuild your first language because of language transferring. So if we were to say like hola, hi, bonjour, and allo, then I've just jumped 4 nets, even for one word. And so when we're jumping, that is the brain elasticity, and then we are now building different nets. It's kind of fun.
No, but Paul and I are going to have Alzheimer's, and you're not, because you're bilingual.
So there are a lot of positive things to being bilingual, not only in school, but also outside. Okay. So how would we foster and create this additive bilingual environment? And then I'm so glad you asked. We can do that by restructuring the current EL program to incorporate a late exit, which is also known as a one-way dual language program. Okay? And then this model educates English language learners using both English and their native language for academic instruction. So of course we would have, in this case, they would be Spanish. So we'd be using Spanish to then foster English and then be bilingual, biliterate, and bicultural at the end of the program. Okay? The next few slides explain the characteristics of the program. So the first one is it will obviously be aligned to standards. It will be an enriched, challenging curriculum. And our Maravillas, which is the new series that was approved, arrived today. And it is very much in line with all of these things. It is aligned to Common Core standards. It is aligned to the Spanish language arts standards. It also ties in all of the cultural and literature by pieces and things that the current program was missing. That provides the bicultural aspect. Okay? It also honors the native language of all speakers, and it does not attempt to be that subtractive type model. It says, okay, we're so happy that you can speak another language, we're going to use that as your benefit, and then we're going to learn English at the same time. So basically, we will have simultaneous bilinguals, which is an excellent result. And again here, there's some more program characteristics, but again, this one is where it really typically focuses on capitalizing on that language transference. So we, right now, do not give students enough time to structure or to form that strong foundation in their native language. So then we're asking them to switch to English, but their first language is not strong enough or they don't have that base where that transference can't really happen. So they have they have some stuff emerging in their native language, but then we're switching to English a little bit too early. And then we're seeing a gap. Okay. And so here's where sheltered instruction comes in again. And I did want to kind of point out what sheltered instruction was. So basically all ESL teachers use that through visuals, through strategies, but it's also taking a very big topic, maybe like the Revolutionary War, and streamlining that and saying, well, what's the biggest idea? What's the big idea? Instead of having to know all the dates or all the battles, what are the most important things? Or setting the context for a specific word. So for example, if I were to say table, probably there are a lot of different people who are thinking different things that have to do with table, right? We could think of a table that we're sitting around. We could think of a water table. We could think of a math table. We need to set the context using the language of instruction, the language of science, the language of math, the language of social studies. So in that way, we can set the focus for the students. Those are two types of things in where sheltered instruction would come into play. All right. One huge positive feature of this program is that students who obtain proficiency on the access test will not have to graduate or exit the program. And this eliminates the idea that ESL, or learning two languages, is a compensatory program. It says, you're not like, oh yeah, you graduated, now you can go start living. No, we're really happy and everything that you've worked for so far is great. So yes, you have now met language proficiency, but you are also fostering your native language. Right? And so what I do absolutely want to point out, though, is once the English proficiency is obtained, the LEP label then would be removed, and then therefore funding for that student would stop. So that is something that is important to note. The other positive things, though, is that the students would be eligible for the Seal of Biliteracy in high school, and then a lot of work would go into parent education if we were able to move forward with this idea. The very first information session could start at our first BPAC, which is November 11th. We would definitely have parent choice, so we would not take that away. So parents would have the right to choose. Yes, I would like this program, or no, I would just like ESL, or maybe I want to refuse all services. That would stay the same. And then very similar to any school who has a dual language or this type of one-way dual, they do offer a contract to parents so that they say, when you're in kindergarten, you're coming in, we understand the benefits of this program, we want to stay in the program, and then they would sign that to say, yes, we would keep our children in, or our child, in this program for the duration of the program, if it ends in 4th grade, or if it ends in 8th, or if it ends in 12th. Okay. So this is a proposed language allocation model. So basically, kindergarten or first grade, instruction is delivered 90% in Spanish and 10% in English. That would be all the encore, the specials, and then a little bit of ESL, specific direct instruction. Each subsequent year, the percent of Spanish would decrease by 10, while English instruction would increase by 10%. So then by the time we get to 3rd grade, math is going to be in sheltered English, but it would be in English. In 5th grade, you would have instruction in 50% in each language. Okay? And then another question is often, how are we going to integrate students? How can we make sure that our bilingual classes are still meeting monolingual students and getting out and fostering English in that capacity? Well, we would assign them a buddy classroom where they would go on field trips, read to each other, into different activities throughout the year. And also integrated specials is a very common manner to promote integration. Basically, that would mean you would have a bilingual classroom and you would break them into 2 groups, A and B, and you would have a monolingual classroom and break them into 2 groups, A and B, and then all the A's would go to PE and all the B's would go to music, and then they would switch. So this is their encore class. So it would be integration that way. And then students gain a true marketable fluency in 2 languages while mastering a challenging curriculum. Okay. So what does the research have to say? This is a graph that I know you're very familiar with. It is from Thomas and Collier, who are the two premier researchers on dual language, language models, language acquisition. And the next slide is just an arrow pointing exactly to what we would be focusing on, the late exit model with content ESL. And since we are not moving into a dual program, this is the absolute next best program. This is like the Cadillac of programs. Lots of districts would love to have this implemented. Okay. What I also wanted to say about this is Thomas and Collier have published they're in the process of publishing a new study where they take a look at students who graduated out of the program, met proficiency, however you want to say that, in third grade. So they obtained a language proficiency in third grade. So that technically means that then they should be able to be comparable academically with a monolingual speaker, so someone who only grew up speaking English. And they obtained proficiency. Thomas and Collier wanted to see how long they would be able to maintain at that same level. Be able to say, okay, you're still on par with a monolingual speaker. And the results were very surprising and very significant. By 5th grade, there was a 10% gap. By 7th grade, it was a significant gap. And by high school, the high school dropout rating is increasing significantly to the point that it made, at the director's conference, they kind of presented this and they spent quite a bit of time talking about how can we fix that. You know what's going on. Great. So this is just some other quotes about Thomas and Collier, just to point out they are the premier researchers. Most researchers who want to study anything with language acquisition, use them as a base, and then they kind of take their study one step further. I am also an example of that. My dissertation is founded in a lot of what they have done. So they're good people. The next set of slides, it basically the percent of Spanish speakers enrollment as of October of 2016. What I do want to note, though, if you can pass it on, is that please note the scale. Okay? So the scale is based on the percent. So the scale is not the same for every single slide, and I don't want that to look deceiving, especially when we look at some of Park's data. Okay? So this is for early childhood, though. Again, this is why that first part was in there in the school code. Each year, that number has grown significantly, the percent, so we're at like 46% of Spanish speakers are in pre-K. This is going to start. So Avon, 45. Meadowview had a little bit of a bubble, but they're kind of on the increase from 2013 to 2016. Moving up. Prairie View, stays steadily increasing. In Woodview, kind of holding steady, but like 11.3%. And Park East had a lot of kindergartners this year. They have 30 kindergartners who are in ESL this year. So that just skyrocketed. Park West, please don't be, this is where the scales are very, very deceiving. This is the difference of a child. It was a 0.2%, and I just didn't want that to look like anything other than it is. Frederick? Where Frederick is coming into play is they have a lot of those former ELs, students who exited in third grade, and a couple who exited in second grade. And so they don't have a huge caseload, but they are definitely monitoring a lot of students this year. In Grays Lake. All right. This is the recommendation that you have seen before. This is what the PDT last year put together. Basically, we, the EL, PDT, and the administration highly recommend that we move forward with this late exit bilingual program. Everything on this page is exactly the same as what you've seen before. Dates have changed, but there would be absolute focus on parent education and professional development for teachers. And that could start as early as November. But then the big question is, how is this going to affect the district, right? So for Avon right now, we currently would not need an additional teacher for third grade next year. We have 20 students who are in the bilingual second grade, and then instead of dispersing them amongst the teachers who are already there, they would just sort of move up together, and it seemed to be no additional teacher would be needed.
So just explain it. So right now the second grade have a bilingual teacher.
Yes.
So is there a third grade teacher in existence already at Avon who could then teach the bilingual?
No. It would probably be a reduction of a monolingual teacher.
Right, so it would be like a wash.
So there's no increase in FTE,
Right,
but it would be.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just so we're
thank you. I
all
appreciate
aware.
that.
Okay.
Yes. Mhm. And then materials, I budgeted about $5,000 a subject area. That is how much the reading materials cost. So the good thing though is that math is already in-house. When Envisions was purchased, it came with quite a bit of Spanish materials through all the grades, and we have enough, after doing inventory this week, enough material that we would not need to purchase either the English or the Spanish math materials.
So it'd be about 15 instead?
Yes, it'd be about 15 instead. Prairie View has a couple of different scenarios. So the first one is to look at a full-time bilingual program, and that would be an additional teacher. So budgeted about $50,000 there. And then materials for the classroom. But here again, very good news. The literacy is already in-house, complete set, and the math is already here. So that would save $10,000 there. So then it's science and social studies. So then that total would be $60,000. Okay? The other scenario is to make a part-time program, and that would still include one additional teacher. But literacy and math would be given or supported or instructed in native language. And then the students would go to a monolingual classroom for their subject, for their specials, and then for social studies and science and lunch. And so then they would spend half the day in a bilingual classroom and half the day in a monolingual classroom. And then the teacher who is hired in the afternoon or whenever she doesn't have her main class, she would be able to provide native language interventions for kindergarten, first, and second grade in Spanish. The other thing that we would be looking at there is caseload numbers across the district and seeing if we can possibly do teacher shifts if necessary. There are other teachers in the district who are completely bilingually certified, so they have the ESL and the bilingual. We might be able to do some shifting if necessary to cover this position. Okay. Other action plans for us then would be to monitor schools for the 2017 and 18 school year. Frederick, Grayslake, Meadowview, and Woodview, their numbers are increasing in some schools at a far greater rate than others, but they are increasing. And at this time, though, it is not a recommendation to implement a full-time or bilingual program at these schools. The caseloads would be reviewed in spring. Okay, and then just to keep continuing with this program, if we were, so then 2018, 2019, we would need an addition of a fourth grade teacher. We would need materials for the classroom. And those materials would definitely then need to be purchased. There might be some math, but literacy, social studies, science, all of that would need to be purchased. And then Prairie View, we'd have the potential for an addition of a third teacher and the materials for their classrooms. And then, of course, the needs for the buildings would continue to be evaluated and monitored.
And going back to Avon,
yes,
could it be the same model as we did? We might look at for next year where one of the fourth grade teachers, you might need one less fourth grade regular ed teacher.
Yes.
Okay.
That is very true.
Okay.
Yes. All right. And so then our next steps again is if you are able to give us the direction to move forward, then that would be great. And this is what we would do. And if not, then. But for yes, we're going to plan for an additional classroom in Avon. We would begin parent informational meetings in November. We would evaluate the enrollment for a Prairie View to determine which type of program we would implement, professional development for EL staff, and then communication during all VPAC meetings to explain the benefits of the late exit model versus early exit and what we have now. And then again, just constantly reviewing the caseloads.
So can we go back to next year, the 16,
Sure.
or 17, 18 years?
Absolutely.
So basically what we would be asking for, you just missed it somewhere. There you go.
Oh, okay, perfect. This is Avon.
Yeah. Yes. So for next year, we would be looking at $15,000.
Yes.
But no additional teacher at Avon. So
Right.
we've got 15, and then go to Prairie View.
Mhm.
But we would need 60, so it's about $75,000 if we were to look at that program moving forward next year.
Yes.
And can you clarify, what grade is this for, the Prairie View piece? What grade?
So Prairie View right now has a kindergarten and first grade multi-age. So we would want those first graders to then move up to second grade. So most likely it would be a second grade, but we'd have to look at numbers to see what's going on because the enrollment is not so sustainable for a class on its own right now.
Would you be able to use like a multi-generation classroom, like first and second together, or third and fourth together?
Absolutely, yes.
Then,
exactly, depending on the class, yeah. So right now we have kindergarten and first together, so yes, we could do a 1-2, we could do a K, but we just have to make sure that there are enough students.
And you said here for you, the same thing, if you were able to find somebody who could transfer from another building, that would cover the cost of the teacher, you would just have to replace that teacher somewhere else.
There, possibly. There's it was reviewing caseloads, we might be able to just sort of shift people.
So depend on the numbers.
We might be able to reduce staff someplace
Yeah.
else by a percentage or a portion to offset that. That's what Stephanie's been working on very closely, because we don't wanna we wanna make sure that we're not overstaffed in another building where we could be using the support in another building. We wanna make sure that we're balancing needs and teachers for all of that. Stephanie is very active on looking at numbers and seeing what is typical. You know, how many kids does a typical ESL teacher have or a typical teacher have as a caseload?
It really would take a year for us to get everything in place, whatever type of training you would need.
Yes.
So that would not start this year, but.
Right. Yes. Training this year so that next year, August, we can just start right away and we have the additional teachers, additional program in place, and then we just move forward.
Those Louis continues on in the high school. Do we have communication with them, or how does that affect them? Are they in it already, or what?
They have a different program than what we have here, and
Will there be a disconnect in 8th grade going to the high school or under this?
Very typically, in my past experience and maybe in Stephanie's past experience, is that when students transfer from 8th grade into 9th grade, that's when they actually take a third language. And so the students already are proficient in Spanish, proficient in English, and then they become trilingual and they become very marketable. And so that's a pretty impressive goal. Or those students then go into high-level Spanish.
Yes.
Much more quickly than their peers. Yeah. So they might go into Spanish 3 or 4 or AP or something. In my past experience, we've had kids who have gone through AP as a freshman or a sophomore, and then they've started a third language to go into college. And so those are very marketable. Colleges are pretty impressed with that kind of a background for students. We would have to look, Stephanie, and I'm sorry, Stephanie, answering the question. We've begun to talk about what a program in 5th, 6th, and 7th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th would look like, how we could continue to support heritage language in their school day, and that would be a work in progress, but we wouldn't want to just drop it after 4th grade. We want to be able to provide a way for kids to continue with their Spanish education so that that bilingual, bicultural, bilingual, those things continue.
I'm glad to see that in 3rd grade you've got the math is taught in English. There's got to be a reason for that. My background, sometimes you run across a kid at the high school level who think, holy cow, this kid is really good, but he's in the regular track of math. Why didn't that get picked up? Well, it didn't get picked up because he didn't speak enough English. And usually, lots of times, the distinguisher between accelerated programs and math way down there are story problems.
Yes.
And so there'd be a computation whiz, but they can't put the rest of it together. And the reason they couldn't put it together was not because of the dendrites, but because they didn't understand the language. So I'm glad to see that.
So there's not a final cost in this. This is a continuing increase in cost each year. So Chris, how do you?
That's everything depends on what, I know we've got several goals for this district, and I know there's a finite amount of money. So depending on which goals the board deems they would like to place at the top of the list versus other goals, we'd be looking at a scenario like that where we can't necessarily fuel everything. And if we go all the way up through 8th grade, now I'm guessing we're talking about some pretty serious money.
Well,
I don't have all the
one
figures.
period a day,
Yes.
one section. It's not an all-day experience typically at that.
Okay, so it's okay.
Yeah, the program changes as they get older.
I mean, yeah, it's something that I know that I have not taken a look at in the upper grades, but I absolutely absolutely love to take a look at and see where this might all be leading.
I guess the issue for the board is, you know, which of those priorities, there's so many priorities that we've looked at. All-day kindergarten, late, I mean, obviously, we know the benefits of a late exit program.
Well, I would like to say, I think you've laid the case, and when I look at some of these statements, that we believe all of our students should have the opportunity to develop bilingualism. What about the students who are not learning any foreign language? And I feel like we are doing such a disservice that there is no foreign language option in K through 8th grade. Our diversity policy that we passed last month talks about this too. I mean, it seems to me like this is the brain benefits. We're shortchanging some of our students by not offering foreign language. And from my perspective, this rises to the top above these other priorities we've looked at. I see this, you talk about how marketable these students are. Well, we're leaving other students out. They're not getting that opportunity. And I just think that where we are is in the world is not getting smaller. It just is very short-sighted of us not to be looking at how we are going to bring foreign language options in for all of our students. And I want this board to consider that. And I know we may have to take it in baby steps. It might not be a full-blown bilingual program, but something is better than nothing. And thank you for all of this. Was good. The brain stuff and the nets, it was very, very helpful. Thank you. Other questions for Stephanie? So, next steps. Do we bring this back for approval? Do we look at all of the priorities that have been identified and talk and prioritize them? So tough. Yeah, we got it.
We'll be looking at trying to nail down a final set of goals November 1st. I think let's see what comes out of that meeting and go from there.
Okay.
I know you mentioned the November meetings with parents and dates were in March. Are those drop dead dates or are those dates that can be? He's walking away still.
So the VPAC dates.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
The VPAC dates, are they set in stone, are they flexible? Can we communicate in other ways?
Sorry about that. November 11th is, but it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be on this. We're having rules and regulations about what the bilingual program is and what parents' rights are and what VPAC should be. We could use that to go ahead and begin talking about the changes if we were able to make them, but that is not the sole purpose of them. The other dates.
And there are other meetings that could be changed.
And that could be flexible. We could make, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Next is topics for future agenda items.
Did we have, no,
Did I miss one?
I gotta go.
Discussion and outline of steps.
For the replacement
Oh,
of
sorry,
the-
new business, sorry, my bad. I need new bifocals.
Okay, so tomorrow, we have to notify the regional superintendent of schools. We're supposed to do it within 5 days that we have an opening. Obviously, the successor will fill this position through the end of the current term. The qualifications, you have to be a U.S. citizen, 18 years old, resident of the district for at least 1 year prior to appointment, a registered voter, not listed on the Lake County sex offender list, not hold another incompatible public office, and not have a prohibited interest in any contract with the district. We then have to post the announcement, which we've already done. We've set an anticipated opening, and we've had 1 applicant so far. We have to fill the vacancy by a vote from the board in an open meeting of the board before the 45th day. So the clock starts ticking tomorrow. We have identified the interview dates as November 1st. You will interview and determine your successful candidate. We would then announce the appointment to the district staff and community and at a board meeting, administer the oath of office. Yes.
Is the interview process public also?
Yes. I believe it is. I think it has to be. It does, it isn't?
I don't think it is.
Okay, well, I can look into that. I thought it was.
I think the last time when you filled,
It was enclosed?
Shannon's, that was enclosed.
Okay, we can look into it. I apologize if I have,
Because if I remember right, we waited outside
okay,
while they had the interviews
okay.
to hear who was gonna be
Well, I
appointed.
apologize, I thought it was
Just,
open.
just to double check.
Yep, I will certainly make sure I do that.
And how are the questions determined?
Well, we have a list of suggested questions that came from, I think I've already shared them with you, and I think you had suggested we add one on education. But certainly you can change or add to any of those, but I do have a list of.
The policy has a list of questions,
Yes.
and then you can add to it if you would. You don't have to ask all the questions either.
Right.
But I would think that the board members who would be to do the interviewing would at least have maybe 4 or 5 questions they would ask everybody.
Right.
And then maybe, depending on where they went, then maybe add 3 more to it, depending on what the conversation was.
And I have those list of interview questions with your change that you had asked.
So far, you said you only have one applicant.
We received one yesterday, yes.
I can recall, do we have I guess, a close date for the application on the website?
I believe we did, didn't we, Sue?
Yes,
Next Friday.
yes, next,
Yes, next week.
Well, that seems quick if we got 45 days, but.
Well, that's the problem, was the 45 days, you don't have a lot of time.
I think days. Oh, it's a 20
35 days is at the end of November.
11
I think it's
days.
like it's
but you have to
December,
count weekends too.
yeah,
That was.
Oh,
that was
it's
counting-
December 8th, 9th, somewhere around in there.
December 8th would be 35.
And we have a board meeting close to that.
Like the 12th would be the 45th day. So the 7th would be our board meeting.
Yes.
I don't know if that's enough time for people to even get the word, let alone decide if they're. I mean, we're talking tomorrow's the 20th. So we have 11 days left in October. We're talking about 12 days from now. We'll be interviewing. And in that period of time, it has to be published. Some guy thinks about it, talks to a couple friends, talks to a couple friends, asks it on the district office, pick up a packet, think it through again, and get it all filled out and turned in until that's be done in 11 days.
Well, we posted it last week,
We did.
yes. That's how we got application already.
And then during that same time frame, they have to get signatures if they decide they want to stay on the board.
Well,
I mean,
That's
that's a different process.
that's separate
That's
process.
different.
All they need to do is to put a letter of intent and send a resume.
Right.
Yeah, this is,
Signatures.
Oh, wait, I was just saying if the board.
if they wanted to continue, absolutely, they would, they'd have to make
I
a
would
decision
hope-
pretty quick.
I would hope somebody that wanna, fill the vacancy would look at continuing, that learning process, onboarding.
And that's a question you could ask as an interview question.
Right.
If you know, I mean, it certainly would be a fair question to ask. But they would have to make a decision pretty quickly, because they have to, right before winter break, to make sure they pick up their packet.
And just for clarification purposes, to apply, they do not have to go to the district office, correct?
No, they can do it online. That's the way we received the first application, was online. Just to email, and then here's my resume, and here's my letter of intent.
Any other questions? Anything else from us?
Do you want me to send each of you as we receive the applications so that you can look at them over? Or do you want, okay.
I would.
And if we have additional my question earlier about the questions was, I know we have a base set of questions, but if we want to add any questions, how best should we do that so that we're asking
The same questions.
questions?
I'll send these out again, and then you can send me any additions you'd like to have, and then
And can you forward those to the rest of us? So
Yes.
everyone- Okay,
Mhm.
great.
Now on to the topics for future agenda.
Well, we have next board meeting, we're gonna have the discussion of the roof. We really can't talk about priorities until after we have our meeting to discuss the school board goals. Right now, that's all that we have.
I'm sure something else.
Something else will come up, but right now. We might have the park results, but we won't be ready to share them. Because what we're waiting on are school improvement, the SIP plans from buildings, which is, usually takes one whole night. We don't have the park results back. And we don't have science either. So,
Okay.
Who's planning on going to the state meeting?
the triple I?
November, triple I.
Kathleen, I think, is as well. Stephen?
So you wanna bring up your, paperwork that you want us to fill out again? For
You
those?
mean for the goals?
The
No, for
reports,
the
reports.
reports
For
for
the
the
conference
triple I.
reports.
Oh, yeah.
So-
definitely.
Wanna have that on the discussion item?
Yeah, let's talk about that. I'll bring the form that we had last time, so then pass judgment on it, and we'll modify it some way.
Did everybody fill it out last time?
2 people did not turn anything in.
So
Hoping that others did.
I would hope if we do it, everybody turn it in.
Any public comments? Okay. And I believe we're going into closed, correct? Where are we gonna go to closed? I'm sorry, I need a motion to go into
Oh,
closed.
do you need to read all that stuff?
Well, let's first, I need a motion to go into closed session.
I move we go into closed session.
Alfred? Aye. Masco?
Aye.
Root? Oh, I'm sorry. Weedman?
Aye.
And Northern.
Aye.
Got to scratch you off.
Yeah, where's the best place? Should we just go into the classroom?
I can put you in the conference room if you prefer, but
Yeah, like
this
this
is close.
Joe, where can I leave this,
You can leave it right there.
even after the meeting, or after we go into closed?
Maybe put it up on that cart there.
Okay, thank you. I forgot to print out what I need for the meeting, so.
Does that work? There's no nuts in that.